Yesterday, you and I have not talked in, I don't even know how long. Months.
Yeah.
And we finally caught up, and...
You're a busy guy.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
Well, not a guy, but
yeah. Last time I checked, yeah, sure.
But we had an interesting conversation yesterday, and I wanted to revisit that. And because it was interesting in that, well, a couple of things. Oh. Because of the way I work, I don't care that we're filming.
I don't care either. Is this what you have for me?
Yes.
Is this why I came here?
Yes. Because you said in the car as we were coming back from
Don't
lunch,
forget to give me what you told me I had to come to your office to get today.
Because my friend Pamela got screwed by me because I'm one of the few guys that bought Rachel Hollis's...
last 90 days.
Well, I did. And
but
Allison, my wife, has that. But this is the journal. Here's the Hustle Journal for you. And it's
awesome.
Because you couldn't get one.
No.
Because idiots like me, because I'm one of her tribe, which sounds weird, but I got that. And then I'm looking at it going, okay, Pamela, there's nothing in it.
I love it. Thank you.
So,
I wanted one, and I was going to purchase, and so gifting it to me, heart ding.
There's your Rachel
Thank
Hollis.
you. And I won't
Hustle
forget
Journal.
Hustle.
And hustle, very important. And by the way, it matches our decor.
Look at you.
So
Look at that. Good. Always matching. Match.
So yesterday, Pamela, how long have we known each other?
Oh, gosh. I've known you since 2001.
Okay, A Space Odyssey.
Something like that.
We've known each other a very long time.
Long time.
And so we're soon going to be coming up on 20 years.
I'm not that old. You're that old. I'm not that old.
I know. And yesterday, we caught up after months and months of not talking.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're not wanting to talk to each other. We're just, you're busy doing your thing. I'm busy doing my thing.
It's called life.
Right. But something in our conversation happened. And I shared something with you that I had never shared with any other living human being.
I didn't think there was anything left in your repertoire that, at least your past, that I didn't know. So I was a little surprised.
And so one of the things that we didn't talk about at lunch today was, and I've shared with everybody that Allison has gotten me these awesome zombie shirts and these theme shirts, but this shirt I was looking at all of my zombie shirts this morning, and I chose this one, not realizing that we were going to sit down and jam about this.
Yeah, me neither.
I chose this one this morning because it represents letting go of something that I shared with you yesterday.
Yeah.
And
something big.
It was big.
It was big.
And it wasn't something... Okay, so you found out at the time that when I spoke to you about this that it was something I had not... My wife didn't even know.
Yeah, that was the big tip-off for me. And I was like... Where are we going here, Spanky?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are we going?
And I'm not, it's not a horrible thing, but it was something that I felt that in the context of our conversation it was relevant for you to understand that, because I think that would help you with mindset, right? We were talking about mindset specifically. And so what I shared with you was that when I came back from Israel, from high school in Israel, because I did an exchange program, I came back and I was credit deficient. And the New York City Board of Education refused to count the credits that I had, and they were going to make me repeat 12th grade. And school was so miserable for me. I was held back in the 7th grade because I was a sucky student, but I was a sucky student not because I was stupid. I was a sucky student because I have a photographic memory, and school bored the hell out of me. And so I was sitting there in I think it's a guidance counselor. Is that what they're? Guidance counselor's office, or career counselor, whatever that person.
I think they're
was.
Guidance counselors back then. Yeah.
And I was told that I am not graduating.
Were you a credit short? What were we talking?
I was several credits short.
Several classes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was going to have to repeat 12th grade. I'm like, no, there's no way I'm doing this. And in my arrogance at the time.
You?
Yes. I was like, well, guess what? I don't need you. And I stood up and I walked out of the guidance counselor's office.
So when'd you go back?
And I didn't. And I walked out of high school, never having graduated from high school. And so if you're sitting here talking to me to...
Yeah, I mean, that blew me away. Because we have known each other for decades, practically now.
And I've known my wife just a little bit longer.
Well, thank goodness for that. And I've worked with you. I mean, we became we were coworkers before we became friends.
Yeah.
So I've worked with you on a professional level on several different capacities. And to work with you and see your skill set and your knowledge, and I don't know, I just think that we all kind of have this assumption that comes from somewhere, that comes from education, that comes from, history. And while it does come from history, it also comes from experience. Mm-hmm. But you are proving something that so many others are talking about nowadays, that it's not so much about the education, it's about the experience. Yep. And when I'm talking about education, I'm not just talking about college. I think that there's just this understanding that, if you're going to be successful in business, you have to have a high school diploma.
Right.
And you are the definition of success.
Well, so it's interesting. I think I don't ever look at that and go, "Oh, I'm successful." I look at it and go, "This is what I'm always supposed to. This is what I was supposed to do in life." Because, first of all, I had a huge chip on my shoulder, because when I was younger, I was told that without a college degree, without even a high school diploma, you can do nothing in life. You're not going to be a success. You're going to work at McDonald's, flip burgers, make French fries. And you're not going to have a career. You're not going to make money. You're going to live in your parents' basement. All of the things that you have heard in the past.
But some of that is true.
Yes,
let's
absolutely.
be real. Some of that is true.
There are people, and some of my children, they're wired in a way that school is great for them. And my oldest, Carter, he's going to be going on into a medical career, and he wants to become a trauma surgeon. And for him, that path makes sense, and he's pursuing that. For my next child, Mason, he wants to play high school or college football, and so, but he's going to go to college not because we're forcing it down his throat, but because he wants to go, and he's wired for it. I was not wired for it. And for me, the fastest exit door I could find to high school was the best one. And so the guidance counselor actually did me a favor that day, because it was like a hall pass to get on with my life.
Okay, but walk me through that.
Okay.
So when you talk about the hall pass to get on with your life, and hindsight's 2020, because here you are now, having built several successful businesses, looking back, looking at that guidance counselor saying, that person gave me a gift.
Yep.
You probably didn't recognize the value of that gift.
Oh, hell no.
At that age.
Not even close.
And so walk me through what you decided to do after you walked out of that office.
So I always knew that I was going to go into the broadcast world. That was predetermined from my being a kid, having my own production room in my bedroom that I created, my radio studio, and creating commercials. So it was in, and by the way, if you ruin it, it's your book now.
Yeah, that's good. That's all good. I got it.
I was, from the time I was 12, doing radio commercials, making them in my bedroom. And so for me, I always knew I was going to be in the creative space because that was in my DNA. And so it wasn't, so I just now knew that, okay, I've gotten this exit pass, this hall pass to get out of this place. What's next? And so I knew for me that what was next was I had to get into radio. And it's funny, the first, when I told Allison, so I told Allison this morning. So it wasn't even last night. And so wait,
let's stop there a second, though. Why wasn't it last night?
There wasn't an opportunity to
tell her so it wasn't like that you had to get into a certain mindset to do it? It just wasn't convenient.
I have zero fear of judgment at this point about it. I'm 52 years old. I've built a multi-million-dollar business. I don't care. And I don't, but the chip is always there. And the chip has been there since I was a kid, because I am so aware of my abilities and my ability to do anything I put my mind to. And
where does that come from? Hold on. You're aware of your abilities, because there are a lot of people. I can just look at a mirror right now and say I have a lot of abilities, but I don't know if I'm necessarily aware of them. Where does that awareness of your abilities come from?
I don't know. I think it's just something that I feel. I know it's. But I've always known that I can do whatever I set my mind to. And I'll give you a great example of this. What year were you born? Okay.
Seriously, dude?
Okay.
Seriously?
Okay.
So,
no.
Okay, don't ever ask me that again.
Okay. Okay, forget about what year you were born. Oh, God, your husband's... Hey, Chris, I asked Pamela a really interesting question.
Dude, you're blushing. You may still have that chip on your shoulder, but I can still get to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
Where are you going with this?
1977. There is a gas crisis.
Okay.
And...
I was not born in 1977.
Thank you, I know. 1977 is a gas crisis. I'm 10 years old. And I'm living on 166th Street and Union Turnpike in Queens, New York. And I see all these cars lining up for gas because you had odd days and even days. And like your license plate determined what days you can get gas. And I thought, oh, wow, look at all these people waiting for gas. I could probably like work that line and sell like coffee or
You're finding an
newspapers.
angle.
Right. And so I went over to Buddy's Schwinn Bike Shop on Casino Boulevard and Union Turnpike, right near the White Castle. And I think neither of them are there anymore. But
the memory is.
Right. And I went over there and I got Buddy, the owner, hooked me up with all these baskets. My bike looked so dorky because it had like front baskets and back baskets. And what I did is I went and started working those gas lines. And I said, hey, can I get you coffee, donuts, and whatever? And I went over to Dunkin' Donuts, and then I went to there was like a candy store across the street, and I would get all these newspapers. And by the second or third day, I was pre-ordering based on what I knew my customers were going to want. And I wasn't charging them a delivery fee. I was just working for tips. And in that gas crisis, I made thousands of dollars. And I just was like, cool, I can buy equipment. I can buy, this piece of this toy, this, So it's just wiring.
Can it be taught, though? Because what you're talking about right now is vision, ingenuity, hustle.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is innate. Because if somebody would have said, hey, go do this, I could do that. But to see that vision. So you talked a little earlier about I knew what I needed to do. Right. I knew what I needed to do when you walked out of that guidance counselor's office without a diploma and realizing that you were never going to have a high school diploma.
Not unless I went for a GED.
Sure. But you didn't do that.
No.
You did something else. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are two totally different things.
I think part of it is fear, right? Fear will drive you to do things that you need to do. Like, so after I told Allison this morning, so I'm in the shower and I'm washing what hair I have left, and I said, hey, what's our schedule look like tonight? And I'm talking to her while she's doing her hair, and I'm in the shower, and so I'm trying to find if there's an opportune time for us to chat, right? Because I wanted to talk to her about this, but I thought it was more of a face-to-face, not a phone call.
Or, hey, here's a quick text, honey. Love you.
Right,
emoji.
Right, emoji.
Kisses.
And where it's mind blown, So or one of those, like, why haven't you told me this?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's a dark secret. But I had to tell her because at this point the clock was ticking because I had told you. Mm-hmm. And even though she wasn't mad at me because she knows you, and there's a friendship there, I just felt like, okay, if I shared this with one of my closest friends, I have to share this with my wife immediately. And I explained the context around why we talked about it, why I shared it. So
exactly.
It wasn't like a,
hey, guess what?
Wow, you suck for telling her first.
No, there was reasons, yeah.
So, but for me, I was not expecting the first thing she said to me, the question.
Okay, so wait. Take me there a second.
Okay.
So you realize that the schedule isn't going to work out.
Right.
You're not going to be able to sit down and have the heart-to-heart that you were hoping about this.
Yes.
She's doing her thing. You're doing your thing.
Yes.
You guys are coexisting like every other American family in the morning.
Right.
And you decide now's the time. Take me there.
So I'm getting out of the shower and I have a towel wrapped around me.
Okay, didn't have you to take me there.
You said
okay.
Take you there.
Like, I didn't need to go there. Okay.
And so I sat down.
Go after the towel.
Okay. So I sat down on the edge of the tub and I just said, hey, so I had
Are you still in the towel at this point? Sorry.
Yes. I'm in the towel.
Okay.
And so
on the edge of the tub.
On the edge of the tub.
I'm there with you, man.
And I sat down and I said, hey, I want to share something with you it's kind of important. It's not a big deal to me, but I want to share it with you because I shared it with Pamela yesterday in our conversation, and I gave her the context, and she's like, oh, what is it? And then I told her, and I said, when I came back from Israel, I was credit deficient, and the New York City Board of Education wanted me to repeat 12th grade, and I refused, and I walked out, and so I never got a high school diploma. And after we talked for a second or two about what that looked like and what that was like, the first question she asked me was, so did you lie on all your job applications? And I'm like...
That was the first question.
Yes. And I'm like...
Liar!
Yes, but I did what I had to do to get the job, because once I got into a job, I knew that I could prove myself because I knew my abilities.
And that's so many people, too, where you just got to get the foot in the door.
Correct.
And to have confidence in yourself to do that.
And so when I bring people into my organization, I honestly don't look at their GPA, the school that they went to. In fact, when my videographer who's standing off to the side...
Pay no attention to him. Yeah.
When we sat down and interviewed, and we were sitting in this room actually talking about it, he told me his GPA, and it was a GPA that was low, and most people would hide that. And I admired the shit out of him for not hiding that and just being authentic. And because when I was in school or left school, I wasn't that forthcoming with that information because, first of all, it wasn't a badge of shame, but people judge.
Yes.
They judge and they make decisions based on, well, if this person didn't do this, then they're never going to follow through in this job, or they're not going to be good for this job. And that's how people get stuck in the McBurger places of the world, because they have this stigma of maybe you didn't graduate high school, or that you didn't get your GED, or that you're not good enough to be doing this or that. And I call BS on all of that, because I think what you are is you're good enough to do whatever you're passionate about and whatever fires you up. And if the things that fire you up and you're passionate about outweigh this little piece of paper that says you learned the basics, that's good enough.
And here's the thing about the basics. Basics can be taught. The next level can be taught when it comes to technical things.
Right.
You know, I've hired people as a manager. You've hired people as a business owner. And when I would look at resumes and when I would sit down and I would talk to people, you know, their experience and what they've done, all very valid and important to the position that you're hiring for.
Right.
That being said, you know, in my line of work, you know, I can teach you how to write a lead. I can teach you how to edit audio. I can teach you those basics. What I can't teach you is hunger. I can't teach you drive. I can't teach you passion. So if somebody doesn't have the best editing skills, or maybe they weren't the strongest writer, but man, they wanted to be, that so outweighed.
Skills are commodities. And you can teach anyone, if they have the drive and the hunger, you can teach them the skills. And so I was always driven and always hungry because my survival depended on it, and my ability to flip the middle finger at the world for saying I couldn't depended on it.
But I want to go back to something else you had said when...
By the way, do you know when I sit down with you, like, we never have... You totally fall into your reporter role. When we sit down, like, you are in news anchor, reporter. Like, it's so weird because we talk, like, we have animated discussions, and I'm like...
But I'm interviewing you.
She's interviewing me.
I'm interviewing you. This is an interview, dude. But I don't call people dude in interviews.
No,
and I don't talk
it.
to them about sitting in bath towels on the edge of their tubs either, okay?
Yeah. And I got to put Marie Forleo on the top.
Okay, do that.
There.
Is this bothering you?
No, it's just weird. It's different for me. It's not like we're sitting around in my backyard drinking wine in front of the fire pit.
Well, next time we'll do that.
We can do that
All
still.
Right. I'm fine with that.
You've got to get your daughter at
some
some
point.
point.
Yeah, a little bit here. Okay, here's where I wanted to go with this. You had talked about you didn't have shame regarding not having the high school diploma, but that people judge.
Yes.
Yeah, and they do.
Yep.
In every which way.
It's the same reason. I. Okay, so let's go. Okay, finish your question, then I'll go in the other direction.
It's okay, I'm used to it. But you and I started off as colleagues, coworkers, and became really good friends. And I was like your work wife
Absolutely.
for years.
Years.
And your family has become part of my family. And I learned this about you yesterday. We hadn't spoken for months.
Yep.
Not because of any fallout, but just because of life. Again,
we're busy.
It happens. But our relationship has become really authentic. It's not just hey, let's go grab drinks, let's go have dinner. How's work going? How's the family? Like you might get a little bit below.
Superficial relationships.
And that you have superficial relationships, and then you also have good relationships. Right. But then you have real ones.
Right.
And
nothing is off limits.
Nothing's off limits.
Right.
And those real ones is where the growth truly happens. And yesterday we were having a real conversation.
Yep.
And
it was deep. It was heavy. There were a lot of complexity to it. It was.
But have you found that? Because you weren't always like that.
No.
And I haven't always been like that because of judgment. People judging you on what you say or what you're thinking or how you're behaving. Have you found that being as real and as authentic and genuine as you've become over the last few years, frankly, how's that served you?
It's freeing.
Yeah.
It's freeing because I don't have to worry about, does this person know? Like, it's very freeing when you can be radically honest and brutally honest with people and have a conversation and a dialogue that has zero filter and zero judgment. Like, we have that in our office now. You know, one of the things that Megan and I talked about, who is part of my team, one of my team members, is that radical candor is so critical to the health of the organization, to the health of the culture.
Why?
Because,
what makes it different? What makes it necessary?
Because then you're not holding back your feedback on something because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
But do you care about people's feelings?
Absolutely, I do. But our goal here is to grow a business together and to work with one another. And sometimes there's friction and there's tension, but it's never my ideas are better than yours because I own the company. It's let's talk this through and see what makes sense. And if this is a dumb idea, let's all call it what it is. Because, you know, they say there's no such thing as a dumb idea. Yeah,
no, there are. Yeah.
There are dumb ideas.
I've heard many of them.
And so for me, having this out there is freeing in that radical candor exists in all areas of my life.
So why now? Why did you share that now?
I'm at a point where my business is doing well. I'm making money. I'm speaking on bigger stages. I'm going to New York in 2 weeks to VaynerMedia again to spend time with Gary Vee. I just don't care. I just don't care anymore. And if people, like Phil Collins said, I don't care anymore. And by the way, I saw him the other night. He's very feeble, and which surprised me. I didn't know about his back surgery, and I was like, who's this dude walking out with a cane? Like, it was really
That's Phil.
Wow. Yeah. But I just don't care about people's judgment.
But okay, but you used to.
I did.
And so I'm trying to drill down on that. You used to, and what I heard you say there, Spanky, is now that I'm successful, I'm on bigger stages, I'm making money, I don't care. Do you have to get to that level of success?
No.
Okay.
It's my own internal comfort.
Yeah.
Because there was no amount of money that I could make, no amount of success that I could achieve. It was only in the last few years when I've started to do a lot of self-work.
Yes.
Where I've started to realize, you know what, screw everybody. I just don't care. Because life is really short. You don't know. There's no guarantee you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, right? You could walk out of here and get hit by a bus. And you don't have another chance at tomorrow. And so for me, it was like, you know what? I've gotten to a point now where I just don't care. And if people want to judge me, that's okay.
But what I'm also hearing you say, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it's also, you know, going back to that chip on your shoulder from not having that high school diploma has served you well because you had confidence in yourself, you had belief in yourself. And so it's not so much that right now you don't care what people are saying and I don't really value what other people are saying, because deep down I think we all do to a certain degree. It's just you're not placing a higher value of what others think of you above the value you have of yourself.
I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I support a family. I know what I've done in my life, in my career. I know, right? I have done a lot of things, and I don't need them to validate who I am. I look in that the validation I get is in the mirror in the morning because I know who I am.
It's placing the value you have of yourself above the value you want from others.
Yes. The only people I need to validate me are my friends, my family, the people that I love that matter. And that's in the forms of the hugs, the love, the wine nights by the fire pit. Those are the things that are important to me.
I'm holding you to that one.
And right,
Okay. We'll open it now.
We can open that. But that's the stuff that feeds me, that feeds my soul, that validates. But I don't need to justify to the world, like, oh, look at me, I'm successful. Like, think about it. I've gotten to where I am, and no one has known my secret. Right? It's like I'm Bruce Wayne. You know, they just don't know. Now they're gonna know, and I'm like, whatever. I don't care. And if some people judge me, great. And some people aren't gonna judge me. Some people are gonna go, wow, look at what he's done without this.
So okay, well, let's go there then for a second.
Okay.
By sharing this secret that you don't have a high school diploma, let alone a college degree. I mean, nowadays it's like everybody's got a college degree.
I have a master's degree. It's a master's of the universe degree.
Here we go.
No, like seriously, it's life.
Here we go.
No, it's life. My degree is life and experience, and I learn from those experiences. You know, so I don't know what that noise is.
Is that the master of the universe now coming?
It's weird, and I'm sure the microphones won't pick that up.
Oh,
they're
okay.
washing the windows. I'm like, wow, we're in the middle of
now?
an interview, and they're this is like weird sound. But it's just life, you know.
So the question I also have, because you're a dad.
Oh, that was a shocker to me.
You're a dad?
No, I thought you said you're a dad, like my dad. Because I shared with you this other conversation.
I didn't know. Do you want to go there?
Well, we can in a bit.
Okay. But that's a shocker to me. What? That you have 5 kids? You should know this by now, dude.
Oh my God. Yeah. No.
We don't need wine. So you have a son,
Yes.
Carter, who, education serves him well. He's a very good student, and no matter what Carter decides to do, he's going to be a success. Mason too, nonetheless. And he's in that phase of like, where is he going and what does he want to do with his life? Okay, but you've got younger ones.
Yeah.
How do you talk to them about that?
Well, I that's an interesting question. For my oldest daughter, I think that's going to be a very challenging conversation because she struggles with school. But I think she's struggling with school because of the social stuff.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of Instagram pressure on her to be perfect. And, she always says, oh, well, look at them. Their house has all this pretty, like, white woodwork. And, so everybody's being compared. She's, like, living in that Kardashian lifestyle world where she wants perfection. And the world isn't perfect. The world has zits. I mean, God, I shaved and cut my nose, and that stuff happens. Yeah. But she wants perfection. So I think for her, the conversation, because it will come up, is going to be, here's why, here's what happened, but you need to have these fundamental. Like, I had the education. Just because I didn't have
piece of paper.
Right. Just because I didn't get the piece of paper to validate it, I know everything, like all of the boring stuff that I learned in school, it's up here, but I only had to be taught it one time because of the way my brain works.
Yeah.
And her brain isn't wired like mine because
isn't.
Right, but and that's it's just a unique gift. Carter's brain is wired like that. Mason's is not. It just depends on the individual. So I'm going to stress with her that like this wasn't the greatest choice, and I don't want her to make that choice. I want her to at least finish high school. But she's already talking about going to college because she wants to act and she wants to. Great. And I'll encourage that. But I am not the type of parent that's going to say, as many of my friends' parents did and my parents did, you can be nothing without a college degree, because that's just not the case. If you pursue what's in here, you will be everything you need to be without the paper to validate. And I don't need the paper. The paper that I need to validate, I don't need it. Why?
What do you need?
Just happiness. I am more happy now than I have been. Like, you've known me a lot of years.
And that's the thing, too. Yeah, because through the years, I've seen the ups and the downs, the challenges with, doing this and doing that, and the different career choices or places or whatever you're doing, and exploring this and exploring that. And, there's a weight that comes along with that. Mm-hmm. Rightfully so.
Sure.
I mean, those are life decisions and transitions that are happening in your life. You probably are working harder now than you ever have before in your life. If you're looking at like hours, if you're looking at effort, and if you're looking at like dedication. But you're probably also the latest I've ever seen you.
Yes.
And the happiest.
Because I'm loving what I'm doing. I wake up. So think about this. In the last few weeks, I've been with Brendan Bouchard at a conference. Mm-hmm. I'm going back to New York to spend some time with Gary Vee. I was at the Digital Agency Expo and had some great conversations and made some great relationships there. I'm flying to, I have so many cities on my list over the next few weeks. I'm getting to do what I love to do, and now I'm getting to speak next spring at some big digital marketing conferences. And by the way, it's not an ego thing for me. I love speaking on those stages because, and this is really interesting, and I've had to dig in to figure out what it is about speaking at conferences that I really enjoy. And it has nothing to do with the size of the stage. It has to do with that size of that stage means that there's a potential that I'm going to impact more than one person. I might impact two.
Let's talk about the impact, though. What impact do you hope to have by sharing? You don't have a high school diploma, yet you created a 7-figure business in under 700 days?
Yes. What do I have to share?
Like, what do you want that one person that you're impacting, or that two people that you're impacting, take away from that?
Whatever it is they need to hear and get out of what I say. Because what I say is personally interpreted by them. So their need may be very different from what my need was, and they may hear it from me in a different way than they would have heard it from someone else. And so for me, it's all about delivering whatever it is that person is looking for, and I don't know what that is. But I've learned from Gary Vee to spend time looking at people's, like when I go to a conference, I now started to look at people's social profiles and see what they're posting and see what they're talking about in relation to the conference, because that helps me go, aha, right? This is what the audience is talking about. And so there's that context is super valuable for me. But it's what that person needs is what they get. And I don't know what that need is. It's going to be different for everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
A lot of ground here.
Yeah.
What haven't I touched on?
Really nothing. It's funny. I wanted to sit down just to talk about what we did yesterday, this conversation, and it wound up, I feel like you're Larry King, a way prettier version of Larry King.
Dude, you've asked me my age. You've referred to me as Larry King.
But you should be flattered.
And I now have an image of you with a towel wrapped around your waist sitting on the edge of a tub.
Barbara Walters?
Is not where
Is that better? Okay, no. Give me Brianna Keeler. No? Okay, I'm digging. I think that knowing who you are is critical. Like when I wrote my first book a year ago, someone asked me if I have a second book in me. I'm already working on my second book.
Good for you.
And my second book is way more introspective. My second book is digging a lot deeper because I've done a lot of digging internally. Mm-hmm. And I think that has a lot of value. Like my second book, the title, like the first book was called Jab Till It Hurts, right? And it's how following Gary's advice helped me build a 7-figure brand. But the second book, the title of the book, or at least the working title of the book is Bro, You've Got This. Because, go ahead. You were going to say something, so what is it?
Bro.
Like, bro. Like you said.
Don't call me bro.
You know what I mean? But, and what it is I think there's a lot of posturing and peacocking in the entrepreneurial space, especially for men. And this book is really going to talk to men, not women. I'm sure there are going to be some women that really are into it. And I've already had some women come up to me and like, your book was amazing. And I autograph it and I do a picture with them and it's cool. But the second book is going to be talking to guys specifically about what their space is today. Because I think a lot of guys are spending an awful lot of time posturing with Lamborghinis and climbing over fences to get with a private jet that they make look like theirs. And there's also a lot of guys not being honest with themselves. Like I started reading, I shared with one of the women that was attending Brendan's influencer conference. I started sharing with her the introduction of my second book, and she was crying. And
well, then let's go there a second.
Okay.
What about that introduction touched her?
Well, I touched on that. Men typically hide body self-image issues. They don't talk about them. Mm-hmm. They just, it's like, I'm a guy. I don't have those things. Look at my pecs. And
or they celebrate the dad bod.
Right.
Like, that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't celebrate the dad bod. But I've never had the pecs, right? Yeah. I've never had the muscles. And so I shared in the introduction of the book, I talked about how, you know, this entrepreneurial world that we live in today, it's like the good-looking dude with the babes and the bikinis, and they're living the laptop lifestyle, drinking lattes in the Philippines on a beach or whatever. Or not Philippines. I was reversing a
Philippines with a
Bali, okay?
A latte.
Bali. And
Filipino latte.
Imagine this with wine. It would be way
better. No, we don't need wine.
And I talked about how that's not what the lifestyle is for me.
Yeah.
And you know, some people drive a Honda, and some people have 5 kids and dance and soccer.
Yeah.
But then I also talked about in the introduction of the book, I went deep right in the introduction, and I talked about my body self-image issues. I talk about why I never go shirtless on a beach, because I've had man boobs my entire life because I was a fat kid. And that's the real stuff that people need to know, not about me, but it helps them get in touch with their own shit, their own baggage, because I've dealt with my own baggage, and I still deal with my own baggage. But what I'm doing now is putting my own baggage out there, because if you put it out there, it can't haunt you, right? If it's out of the, if it's not buried in the closet somewhere underneath a pile of clothing, and you bring it into the light, it's very freeing. And you know, there's I forgot what the expression is. The truth will set you free. Mm-hmm. Like, sharing that stuff is very cathartic for me. And I don't care if people want to judge me because I have a fat roll over my belt. Fuck you, right? If people want to judge me because I won't go shirtless at a beach, okay. I don't care. And so I think that for my second book, I want to dig into some of those things that guys believe they have to be, and the macho and the bullshit. Like, I would much rather watch HGTV with my wife than watch sports, unless it's my son's football game. And I shared a story with someone recently. The first time I was at, you know, Randy Johnson, the baseball player. Mm-hmm. First time I was in his house, or it may have been the second or third time. He had this amazing trophy case. Like, this room was full of trophies, but it was glass enclosed, lit. It was gorgeous. And he had a phone call, and so I was walking around while he was on that call, just looking at the trophies. And I know nothing about sports. I've never been a sports fan. And I finally was like, after he got off the call, I'm like, Randy, and I'm pointing to this one case that has multiple of the same trophies or the same award, and I'm like, what's that? And he looks at me and goes, what? You gave me the same look Randy did.
I'm the chick in the room. The Cy Young?
The Cy Young Awards.
Oh, good night.
I had no idea what they were. And so that's...
I'm like embarrassed for you right now.
But
okay.
You see, but that's the level of true I want to be with people, because I think that's just me being myself. That doesn't mean, you know, and that's the other thing. A lot of guys tend to want to be super macho because the things that they might like or dislike, people will label them. Oh, he doesn't like sports. He must be gay. Or he watches HGTV with his wife. Yeah, I do. Guess what? I like my house to look good. And if I watch that...
It's lovely, man.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so for me, it's just a matter of just pushing boundaries. And I do like to push back on people. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's what this book is. It's me trying to help guys get more in touch with who they really are as men, as entrepreneurs. I'm not going on some spiritual journey where I'm going to be like...
It's just going to Bali with a latte?
No. but like, that's where this book is, and it's where it's heading. And so...
When do you hope to do it?
So it's in the process right now. It's probably going to be spring 2020.
Good for you, man.
So
good for you. You got a lot of projects going on.
I have a lot of projects going on. Or a latte.
Are you in the Philippines, though, or are you in Bali?
No, I'm here in America. For the
Where
most part.
are we?
For the most part.
And you don't have a bath towel on, because that's still stuck in my head.
Not that I know of. But that's it. No, I'm wearing shorts. I really am. So, but that's it.
Right.
And I'm glad we got to have lunch today, because that's what started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And as we were sitting there having lunch, I'm like, do you have time to come back to the office and sit down with me? This was like totally not planned.
Right.
The only thing that I planned in my day was that this shirt represented my day after I had my conversation with my wife. Because,
pretty cool.
She got me this shirt, but this shirt, Sean got me this. Sean found this GIF or GIF, I don't know what you call it, and shared it with me. And I'm like, oh, I love that. And we put it on our social media page. And I've always loved seeing this when the zombie's arm comes off. But for me, this was representative of just being free. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the baggage of hiding that. And I wasn't hiding it out of shame. I was hiding it out of, I don't want to be judged by people, because I just don't have time for your judgment. I've got a business to run. And if you're going to be judgmental, fuck you. I just don't care. So this was my fuck you shirt today. Not you, but the world. But it was also very freeing.
You have told me that before, but that's okay.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, hey, you know what? I'm glad you shared that with me.
And thanks for teaching me how to do this, because you're a way better interviewer than I am. I need to take
I'll
some
work with you on this.
I need some
You kind of took me to task. Like, you totally changed into this mode, and you're in your reporter and anchor
You
mode.
did. You went all I'm Pamela the reporter now. It's like
Pamela the reporter.
And that's why that's why you were like Larry King to me.
Back to the Larry King.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this. Love you. You're the best.
We're gonna wrap this.